Hello, this is Cheryl Cabrera, and we're going to take a look in this video at modeling a head, neck, and torso, a simplified approach, which is from Chapter 2 of my book, An Essential Introduction to Maya Character Rigging, available from Focal Press. And so we're going to start assuming that you already have your reference image inside of the Maya file. I'm going to add that to a layer so that we can't select it and it's referenced. And I'm going to be using Nurbs EP Curve tool, which is found on your Surfaces menu. And I'm in Maya 2009, by the way. If you have a newer or older version, some of the tools may be in different menus. You can always email me at info@mayacharacterrigging.com and I can answer some of your questions there. So I'm going to go ahead and basically trace this image. Now you'll notice that I'm not tracing exactly on my drawing here because the drawing's a little bit off center on the head. So while you begin with a reference drawing, it is just a reference, so feel free to adjust things as you go. You'll also notice that I'm clicking about 2, sometimes maybe 3 or 4 points in one Maya unit of the graph, and that's just so that I make sure that I have enough geometry. But generally speaking, 2 clicks per unit or grid square is a good rule of thumb. You'll also notice that I passed up the arm because we're going to be modeling that separate from the head and the torso. And I'll do the same thing when it comes down here to the leg. I'll pass up the actual leg. And I want to make sure that I factor in the crotch. You can use your grid snap, which is X, to place the last point, and we can adjust the position of that in just a minute. So when I'm done, hit enter. And I can go now into the control vertex position and move with my move tool. Make some adjustments here into this curve. Let's select these down here, and I'm pressed F on the keyboard to frame that selection, zoom in here a little closer. And we can adjust these points like that. Now, once I'm pretty happy with my traced result, I'm going to revolve this to take a look at what the surface will look like. And then we'll eventually convert those into polys. Alright, so with my curve selected, I on my Surfaces shelf can click the revolve. That, by the way, is also under your Surfaces menu, revolve. And if I need to make any more adjustments to this, I can open up my outliner, select the original curve, and right-click on the outside and choose Control Vertex again. And this will allow me just to adjust and manipulate the curve, which then in turn adjusts the surface itself, because there's history and these two things are still connected to each other. Now this looks great from the front view, pretty good. I can come over here into my perspective. By the way, I have this on shading X-ray, so I can see through the object, but you can turn that off. I also have wireframe on shaded there so that I can see the geometry, but you can turn those off. And I go into my side view and I notice, oh well, this isn't quite the shape of my side drawing. So what I want to do now is select the revolve surface, and I want to add under the animation menu set, under edit create deformers, we're going to add in a lattice. And what the lattice is going to let me do is make an adjustment to very few points called lattice points. And notice how it affects the entire geometry. It really speeds up the modeling process. But I'm going to need a few more levels here on this. So if I come over into my lattice, I want to make a few more T divisions. This lines up with X, Y, and Z. So T would be my vertical. And I'm going to increase that to, say, let's try 8. Sometimes maybe 10 might be what you need, depending on the detail of the shape. And with the lattice selected, I right-click off to the side to choose lattice point. Make sure you're off to the side. If you're on top of the object, you're going to get the control vertex, the Nurbs option. So for the lattice, we want to make sure we're off to the right with the lattice selected. And now I can pick points and start adjusting just a few points to having to push and pull all of these other points inside of the Nurbs surface here, because you can see very quickly, look how many more points I'd have to be moving if I wasn't just dealing with this lattice. And so using this, we can get a nicer shape of the torso from the side. Remember that your reference drawing is just a reference. You can divert from it if it's not looking quite the way you want it in 3D. You can make some more adjustments to it, but it's a great starting point to work from. Alright, so back over here into perspective. Let me hide my reference plane there and take a look at how this is looking. It's pretty good. Not bad for a quick model. And I can now take this surface and delete my history, which will bake the changes from the lattice into it. And now I can convert it. If I want to work with polys, I can convert this over to polys by going Nurbs to Polygons. Modify Convert, Nurbs to Polygons. Beware though that the default settings don't work very well for this. You want to make sure that you choose control points and tessellate that. And then you get this Nurbs to Poly surface, which is actually now polygons. And you'll notice it's a little more hard edge, not as organic, but if you preview smooth by pressing 3 on the keyboard, it looks pretty darn close. So that's great. Move that back on over. We'll delete history here because right now it's still connected to the revolved surface. History. And then we can delete the curve and the revolved surface and get those out of there. And rename this as my body geometry. And that's the beginning of modeling a character. Thank you very much.